I'm Jason, UFC, and today we have a story about UFC heavyweight contender. Jon Jones says former UFC undisputed heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou opted out of the opportunity to fight him. Francis didn't believe in himself. Wow, okay. Jon Jones says Francis Ngannou is to blame for their fight not materializing. Jon Jones was gearing up to face Ngannou for the heavyweight championship, but Ngannou parted ways with the UFC after they failed to come to an agreement on a new contract. Dana White said Ngannou turned down the biggest contract in UFC heavyweight history. And Jones questioned his decision to not take a chance on himself. I don't think I deserve any criticism, Jon Jones told RMC Sport. I'm here. Francis had the opportunity to face me, and he opted out of the opportunity. If anyone should be criticized, it's Francis Ngannou. If I'm correct, he was offered the biggest contract. He said, "If I'm correct, if I'm correct, Jon Jones, if I'm correct, he was offered the biggest contract in heavyweight history. He had the opportunity to be a guy, to dethrone me." This paragraph, oh my, I have to read it again. Francis Ngannou didn't believe in himself. Francis didn't believe in himself. He wasn't willing to gamble on himself. This paragraph right here is just, it's so, I have to read it again. Unbelievable. You have to love Jon Jones. Instead, Jon Jones will face former interim champion Cyril Gane, who's 7-1 in the UFC, for the vacant, undisputed heavyweight championship belt at the UFC 285 headliner next weekend, March 4th. Right? I believe that's next weekend at T-Mobile Arena here in Las Vegas. Who's he? He won't be taking on the undisputed champion, but Jones is not ruling out. Okay, Jon Jones won't be taking on, well, there is no undisputed champion. So, okay. Jon Jones is not ruling out a future showdown with Francis Ngannou. I felt bad for the fans. I know that would have been a massive fight for the fans, Jon Jones says. People from all around the world would have loved to see that event, and I'm not counting it out. I could see Francis going and fighting in boxing and doing whatever he's going to do. I think he'll always be welcome back to the UFC. There's always going to be a big fight, and I'll be ready for him. Okay, this is okay. Interesting. This is interesting because Jon Jones is facing Cyril Gane next weekend, and like all of these quotes I've heard for the promotion of this fight has almost been zero about Cyril Gane. Like, he's not even talking about Cyril Gane. He's talking about Francis Ngannou not believing in himself enough to fight Jon Jones. So that's like a shot early at Cyril Gane. You know, Cyril Gane, his one MMA loss came to Francis Ngannou. So, it's like Francis Ngannou is too afraid to fight Jon, or doesn't believe in himself enough to fight Jon Jones, but he's the last person to defeat Cyril Gane. So easily, Jon Jones is taking a crazy shot at Cyril Gane. And here's this paragraph. I just have to read it again because there's so much in this paragraph. I'm here. Francis had the opportunity to face me, and he opted out of the opportunity. If anyone should be criticized, it's Francis Ngannou. If I'm correct, he was offered the biggest contract in heavyweight history. He had the opportunity to be the guy to dethrone me. Wow. So this is a light heavyweight, not a champion, right? A light heavyweight who has been retired for 3 years, right? Saying that Francis, the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, had the opportunity to dethrone him. You really have to love Jon. Most people just read that and not, they're like, yeah, of course he's. But Jon Jones didn't have a belt. Jon Jones wasn't the undisputed heavyweight champion, right? He's saying that Francis, who's the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, fighting a guy who has not fought a fight in 3 years, had the opportunity to dethrone that guy. You just have to love Jon Jones. You have to love Jon Jones. Yeah, so much of this promotion is just not about Cyril Gane. I've saw a few articles recently, Cyril Gane saying that he's doesn't train in between camps and he hasn't had enough time to train for Jon Jones. I don't know what's going on there, but there seems to be something going on with Cyril Gane that if you are supporting him for this fight, you should be a little bit worried. Jon Jones is talking about Francis Ngannou. He's talking about Daniel Cormier and him should be best friends and things like that. Almost nothing about the person he's fighting literally next weekend, right? But that's where you have to love Jon Jones so much. But let me know what you think about this story. I don't really have anything personal to say about this story. I can't say I know for sure if Francis Ngannou didn't believe in himself enough to face Jon Jones, or did he want to go to boxing to get $30 million? One of those two things could be true, or it could be something else. But if that's what Jon Jones wants to believe, then he definitely has the right to tell himself that, hey, Francis Ngannou going to boxing to get $30 million or more, right, is less about that and more about him not believing in himself, to dethrone me. Jon Jones, Jon Jones he is literally the GOAT, and I hope he wins next weekend. I hope he defeats Cyril Gane next weekend. But good luck to Jon Jones. I'm Jason, UFC. Today we have a story about UFC heavyweight contender Jon Jones says former UFC undisputed heavyweight champion of the world Francis Ngannou opted out of the opportunity to fight Jon Jones. Francis Ngannou didn't believe in himself. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the $1 donation button, and please tune in to the next video on this channel. Thanks a million for watching.